All right, guys, welcome back. This is where we left off. And after I left you guys, I was thinking about the ellipses and isocircles. And I realized that I was doing mine the hard way. These holes that I made. Uh, so just as a quick reminder, what how ellipses work. When you make a regular ellipse, EL, enter, and you type, center, C, enter, and you make an ellipse, you have to click on something. It doesn't know how big to make it. Your only option is to click one axis and then click the other axis. That's how it's done. And that's how I did these. I made the radius. So I had a center point located, I and then I had a radial distance, and I went to ellipse EL enter, and but I said isocircle I enter, and I clicked on the center, and then I clicked on the edge, and that's how I did that. But I didn't need to, because when you use isocircle, one of the fun little advantages to using isocircle is that you can actually type in the value. So like these right here, these were 1/2-inch holes. I could just type in 1/2-inch hole. I could say EL enter, click on a center point. I'll just click randomly here. So it's EL enter, I enter, click on a center point. And then rather than click on, have to have a radial, thing to click on, you can just enter the value. It is prompting us down here for the radius. And if you want to enter the diameter, you can click on diameter and enter that. So you can just enter the value. I could have just said, oh, the radius is 0.25, enter. There it is. So I didn't need to make that little radius line like I did. Okay. So an extra step that is not necessary when you are using the isocircle, but is necessary when you are only using the ellipse, the standard ellipse. Okay, so there is a difference. All right, a little bit of clarification for you. The next thing I'd like to, fault of mine that I'd like to admit, is that I should have not made these holes when I did. I was trying to just get something out of the way that was pretty easy before we went on to the hard stuff. But the truth is they are really in the way. So I did the arcs on the side, and they have the same center as these holes. So you are constantly trying to click on the center of these holes, and there's a bunch of them, and you could easily get the wrong one. So I'm going to remove them, and you should do this too. And I'm just going to put them on a different layer. So right now I'm going to select all these circles, which are really isoellipses, and I am just going to move them temporarily to my phantom layer, and then turn my phantom layer off. And I'll put them back when we're done. So now they are safely out of the way, and we can go forward with the arcs on the side. Pay close attention. There's a lot going on here. So the thing to realize is the arcs are at different depths along this axis right here. You have an arc that is going to be at the bottom. You're going to have an arc that is going to be at this level right here, this bottom surface. You're going to have an arc that is going to be at the most outer surface out here. But you're also going to have one that intersects at the tangent. So the thing is, we have 4 heights. If you look in this top view here, we have this height, this height, this height, and this height. There are 4 significant depths or heights. And each one has got to get a copy of that ellipse. Okay, so that is what we're going to do. We're going to make one correct ellipse, and then we are going to copy it to the other 3 locations. I think that's the easiest way to do this. So we need to get those depths located. We have on the same line, let's put it that way. So I'm going to do it on a center line. I'm going to come from the middle here and come out. And obviously that's one right there. So we got the one at the very bottom side, the one at this surface, and then we need these others along that same line. So what I'm going to do is just bring those lines down temporarily so that I can click on that line. All right, and then I'll bring this out all the way to there. Okay, so now we have all the depths right there, right there, right there, and right there. Okay, so let's make our first ellipse. And it really doesn't matter what one of these surfaces we make it on. And then we'll just copy it to the other 3. Doesn't matter at all. We know it's 2 inches in from the edge. It may be, but let me zoom in on here. It might be easier just to start at the top and then work our way down. So I will make a line from the top intersection right here where that line intersects this top surface. And I'm going to pull back 2 inches to enter. So that is for sure that's the one, sorry, that's going to be used for the one on the back side here. And I'm going to need, that's the center for the arc that's going to go on the back here. And then I'm going to move this line all the way to that edge there. And I'm going to work my way backward this way. So I'm going to, let me just put that there. And then I'm going to work my way back this way. So I'm going to click on that point and pull it in this direction 2 inches to enter. And now I can just delete the long one. And now I've got my endpoints. So that one right there, that's the center for the arc on the right. And this endpoint is the center for the arc that goes on the left. Because remember, the centers were 2 inches in from the edge. Okay. They were also, it depended on your perspective. They were either 2 inches or 5.5 inches. So we could have said, this point right here happens to be 5.5 inches over from that edge. So it's just, which depends on which way you're going. So anyway, let's make this ellipse. We got everything we need. I'm going to go to my object layer. I'm going to say EL enter, I enter. I'm going to click on that center point right there. And I could drag it out to there because I actually know where it's going. It's going right there. But I should also be able to just type the radius, which is 5.5. Let's see if it works. Cross my fingers. And sure enough, zoom out a little bit. It is. You know what? I'm going to make a liar out of myself. And that one I made at 2 inches. I'm going to delete that one and make it at 5.5 because I know I may have made a mistake. So let me draw that line out 5.5 instead. Sorry. From this edge here, from that point there, going along that axis, I'm going to type 5.5, enter. Yeah, that's different. I was getting thrown off. Sorry. Uh, it's, I shouldn't have been using that back edge. Um, so never mind. So that will be it right there. So that line from this point here stretched out 5.5 inches, and that's going to be our radius for sure. And again, you could just click on it if you wanted. So EL, enter, I, enter. Click on that endpoint and drag it to there if you wanted to drag it. Or you could type 5.5 and there. Okay, so it worked. That's what you want. So that's our one ellipse, and that's the only one we got to go through the trouble of drawing. Because now we'll just copy them along this line. You'll see what I'm talking about here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit and grab that guy and hit CO, enter, and copy him from that point to that point to that point to that point. I think I'll make each one a different color. Zoom out a little. So again, making that vertical line is kind of the key. Well, it's depending on your perspective. In this situation, it's more of a horizontal line. From the center, going out all the way to what would have been the top, and we figured those lines by making these two vertical lines here, the top surface and then the point where the bevel intersects. And so we got all 4 of these ellipses copied to those points of intersection. And now we're ready to trim to them. So that's going to be the fun part here. Where to start, the top or the bottom? It's a good question. One interesting question is going to be, where does the bevel go? And you'll see that's going to be hard. So I'm going to zoom in here a little tighter. And the very first thing we're seeing, this blue one is the top line, right? So that's cutting this surface right here. I'm going to start trimming to it. And this line's getting cut there. This line's getting cut there. So that line affected that surface. That's the height. And then this pink one was for the beveled surface. So that is the one that is going to cut the bevel right there. So the bevel line gets cut by it. The next one is the red one, and that is for this surface here. Interesting thing about that surface there is we can't see how far back it goes. We know it's going to cut this one here for sure. It's going to cut that to it right there for sure. But what we can't see is how far back it goes because we don't have this hidden line here. So what I need to do is draw that hidden line, the one that would go back this way. just a little bit of it, so you can see where that red line would actually intersect it. Okay, and that is what it's going to trim to. So that ellipse right there is going to cut to that hidden line. So there and there. And then we can just get rid of all this stuff. Obviously, the yellow one's gonna cut the bottom, right? So the yellow one cuts the bottom right to there, and then obviously this goes away. This whole edge right here, all this stuff is now gonna get deleted. Just get rid of all this stuff. And now we can put it together. So object layer, line. We got the back edge coming up like this. It hits the bevel. Then the bevel goes to here. Okay. And then this surface comes down to there. Boom. This hidden line will no longer be visible. That goes away. These things are all going to be trimmed away now. There they go. And of course the colors, this was just to locate that point, so that would be trimmed away too. And these will become blue. This will get trimmed away. So that is the arced face. Let's see how it pans out on the underside. And let me zoom out a little bit so you can see what we got going on so far here. So that is the arc face coming in. So we'll do it one more time on the bottom. All right. So this arc on the bottom is going to take out everything that's on the bottom. So trim that all away. There it goes. Until it gets to that back edge there. So we can just trim that little piece. So it's got a little tiny line segment there. So that takes care of the bottom. Now we have this face here, and that is getting wiped out with this one up to that point there. So we can get rid of that. And then we know a straight line will come out here where it intersects this point here, the chamfer. I'm sorry, not the chamfer one. It'll intersect up here at the top, and then that will go down to the chamfer. So we'll trim this one away like that, and that should give us this straight line, which will become the edge. This can all go away. That one can go away. This little piece in here can go away. And so that line is just going to connect them. So let's draw that in. From there to there. This little piece will get trimmed out. So the question is, how much of this are we going to see? Get rid of that. And again, this is the upper surface right here. and it would go to the chamfered surface on that level. And you can see the connection point between this one here and the chamfered surface, which is this one here. It is essentially a straight line that's going to connect those two, which is not a surprise because it was before on the backside too. So technically, I would be connecting these points by clicking on that one and then clicking on that one, but it's the same line. So that's just going to get trimmed out. And you can't see it is the answer. So that the chamfer one really didn't have an impact on this lower view is what it boils down to. And trim this piece out. So that's that. That comes through. You get that. It goes down to its chamfer. I'll get rid of that one. This is, I think, the one that's weird, that this line segment is so short. On the drawing that they gave us, it's just the angle that it's at. This line segment was considerably longer. We are seeing more of this curved surface on ours. So that's what's up. So this arc is more pronounced on ours. All the arcs are more pronounced on ours. We just don't see any of that chamfer. Okay, so I'm gonna get rid of this guy here, and trim this one. I think I've got all of these taken care of, so I'm going to trim them away. And just delete the rest of these arcs. Okay. And make all this stuff by layer. So there you go. It's kind of strange. Kind of strange looking. The bottom part is definitely throwing me, but I'm pretty sure we did that right. Pretty sure. And you could check. You could just say, well, what would it look like without the curve there if it was going straight down? You know, would that look normal? Something essentially like that. And it's definitely a little bit of a mind warping. But I believe that is correct. Okay, so let's move on to the back side. And this one will be quite a bit more simple, hopefully. Um, So on this surface right here, we really only have the one to deal with because this is the only one that's visible, this upper one. I take that back because we will have to find this edge here, but that's the same. That's easy. So we'll just use a center line and we'll find the middle here. And we'll pull it this way, again, the 5.5 inches. So that's the center point for the arc on this surface. We'll do an ellipse circle, EL, enter, I, enter. Click on that endpoint. And you could just click on the edge here, or you could type 5.5. Either way, and that is your arc. Okay, and this is where it's going to intersect over here. You can just trim this stuff away right now. Okay, and then this line is just a standard line. From here across, and trim those away. Get rid of that. Done. So that's your back edge. Heck of a lot easier than what we were doing over here. Heck of a lot easier. Now for the slot. So the slot's going to be a little bit of a challenge. The slot's center is the same center point. So it will also be the endpoint of that line. And we'll do the same elliptical circle thing, EL, enter, I, enter. And here we go. Clicking on that same endpoint. And so the center one is 4.5, right? So 4.5. In fact, I'll just make that a center line right now so you believe it. But the other two are different. So if you come over here and we dimension these guys, that one is 1.88, and this one's radius is 4.813. So 4.188 and 4.813. So we need to do those as well. So EL, enter, I, enter. And I'll type in 4.1, what was that again? 88. 4.188. Okay, and then the other one, 813. Okay, so they all are coming from the same center point, which was 5.5 inches in from that edge. So that's good. So we have the sides of the slot made. They're done. What we need to do now is make the ends of it, this part here. So we can't draw an angled line. So just calling out a 17-degree line here would not work. What we need to do is locate these points. Probably the best bet for that, you need an X and a Y. Or you could just measure over to there and then go straight up till it intersects. Let's do that. So I'm just going to make a straight line from this point of intersection here, just straight down, perpendicular. Let me erase these guys. So that line right there, I'm going to use to measure. So down the middle to this line and then straight up to where it intersects the arc. That's the center point. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to measure that distance from there to there. Well, that is, oh, sorry, it's the wrong one. I was going to say that's quite the coincidence. It's this one right here. Okay, so that distance is 1.197. So if I go in 1.197 and then straight up where I hit the arc, I will have the center point. So that's what I'm going to do. 1.197. So I'm going to make a line right here, and I'm going to come on down, pulling along this line. And I'm going to say 1.197. And then I'm going to go straight up. Straight up. There it is. And straight down to get the other side. So those points, that is where this thing is. So where the centers of those are. So if I go from the center point now of the arc to that point, you see, and I'll color these lines, these are the radiuses that go to. So this line right here is the same thing as this line right here. This going down from there to there. I can color it red for you. So that's the same thing. And now I can make the ellipse that goes there. That's going to cap that thing off. So let's give it a shot. See how well this works. EL, enter. I, enter. I'm going to click on that point and then go to the edge. Let me zoom in on that. I don't think that worked out so well. Not sure what I did here. Huh, that's odd. I'm getting some weird snap effect is happening here. I'm curious if I just type in the value. So the radial value was 5/16, which looks like it works pretty well, actually. So just typing that in, again, using that same concept that we did before. So maybe you don't even need to draw this line. If you just find the center point like that and type in, so find that point of intersection, and then type in the ISO circle, EL, enter, I, enter, and click on that center point and type in the value. Or I thought just clicking on the edge, that's what I was trying to do before. But if the value is, again, 5/16, or the decimal value on that, what did we radius those guys at? 313. That's what it dimensions out as a decimal. So you type 0.313. That works out just perfect. So that's your guy. That's the way to do that. And then we'll go down to the one on the bottom where it intersects on the bottom here. So I guess you didn't need to make this radial line anyway. Don't worry about that. And type EL, enter, I, enter. And again, grab that point of intersection. And 0.313. There you go. So now we should be able to trim these guys out. Delete that line. Trim this part. Trim this part. Zoom out. And what the heck? Looks like I accidentally. I bet you this one's not quite tangenting. So if your circle's not hitting it right on the money, you might trim some of that away. I wonder if that happened. No, I don't know what happened. All right. It's working. Just get rid of all this stuff. This one you could trim or just remove. I guess we don't need center lines on this drawing. You will want to be able to show the backside. So again, copying the backside of anything, you could use this line here, any line that is the thickness of this piece. So copy all this stuff here. That's a good one to use. Just CO enter and use this as a base point and then go from there to there, the other corner. And you can see if any of it would show. Because of the angle we're at, almost none of it shows, whereas on the other drawing, quite a bit of it did. But so you can see just the tiniest little bit of it is visible through here. And then the rest of that you would just delete. I'm going to zoom out. So just that little bit turns out is visible. You may, and technically it should be there. Turn those holes back on and move them all to the object layer. Trim out what is not visible, which is going to be everything in here. A lot of work to make those holes that aren't very visible. Yeah. All right, guys.